In this activity, we'll be using sliders. Sliders we use to control certain movements. For example, if you want to control the angles, or if you want to control the gradient and y-intercept of a straight line, or the coefficients of x and constant term in a quadratic. So how do we construct or design sliders? We're going to be using this tool, and our slider is highlighted there, and the slider that I want to use is to construct angles. So I'm going to select angle, and notice that the name changes to alpha. My interval is from 0 degrees to 360 degrees, and I want it to change by an increment of 1 degree, and I click on apply, and there is my slider waiting for me to do something with it. So let's construct a line segment AB, and I want to construct angle with a given size. So I click on that, and I click on A, and B, and I don't want 45 degrees, I want alpha, and I can go counterclockwise or clockwise. Let's go with counterclockwise for the time being. No, let's try clockwise first. And there I have my angle being shown there. So let's construct this line segment from B to A prime, and in order to move the angle, I move the slider, and it goes from 0 to 360. However, my angle is showing on the outside, and I really want it on the inside, but no matter, I can make this line smaller, and I'm showing there angle between AB and BA prime. And of course I can clean this up. Let's go to object properties, basic. I only want the angle. Let's look at the decoration. That's fine. The style, I can change my line style. No, let's have it remain there. Line thickness, does it really matter? Let's leave it there. And the size, let's put it up to about 50. I close, and I'm moving my angle there, and this is how I control the angles that I want to. I don't really need to show B, so I can right click. Perhaps I don't really need to show A prime either, nor do I need to show B, nor do I need to show A. Just depends on what you want. What I'm trying to show here is the use of the sliders, and we're going from 0 to 360 degrees, and this would make quite an interesting teaching tool to show acute angles, obtuse angles, reflex angles, and so forth. The next type of slider that we want to look at is a slider that looks at curves and straight lines. But first of all, let's work with the straight line y is equal to mx plus c. So I need to make two sliders. and we're seeing here that I want a number. The interval is from -5 to +5, and I'm going to change that increment to 1. Apply that, and I need a second slider. That one is B. The same increment. Let's increase it just a little to -10, and this is 10, and the increment I want to be 1, and we apply that. And these are going to represent, for me now, I go to the input bar and I want the equation y is equal to a, press the space bar, x plus b. Press the enter key, and we have there a straight line labeled C. Now pay attention in the algebra view. The line C is given by y is equal to x plus 1. This 1 corresponds to 1 on the slider B, and the coefficient of x here corresponds to 1, which is slider A. And notice the slope or the slant of the line. To make it a little more realistic, let's put in our x and y axes. So we go to view and let's put in axes, and that should make a little more sense for us, that this line is passing through 2 points, 0, 1 and -1, 0. That corresponds to the gradient of the equation being 1 and the y-intercept being 1. Now let's watch what happens as I change the slider to 2. Notice the equation has changed. Y is equal to 2x plus 1. This 2 corresponding to the 2 on the slider, and notice that this line just changed. Let's do some enhancements. Right click on that line, object properties. Let's increase the line thickness. Let's change its color to red, and I want to show the value. So the value here is the equation of the line y is equal to 2x plus 1. It's red, and if we change the slider, we are noticing that the equation changes. And if we change B, what do we observe? So using sliders will be quite interesting with what we want to do with the equations of straight lines. The sliders, we can change the properties by right clicking on the slider, going into object property, and we can change the interval. Supposing I wanted the minimum value to be all positives, 1 to 5, I don't want any negative gradients to deal with, and I want the maximum value to be 10. I can do that, and it changes, and as I approach 10, notice what is happening with that line. And I can change B, and what do we observe happening to the line as B changes values? What do we observe happening to the equation of the straight line? So this is one other use of the sliders. We can use the sliders also to look at quadratic equations. So let us look at that one, and in this case we'll need 3 sliders as we have 3 coefficients. Let's get rid of the axes for a little while, and I'm going to create 3 sliders. The first one is A, and I change the increment to 1, and I will leave the minimum and maximum values as they are for now. Then I need another slider B, and let's change this to -20 and 20. I need an increment of 1. And our third slider is C, and this one I'll also change to 20 and -20 with my increment of 1. Now in the input bar I'm going to type y is equal to A spacebar. We press the space bar. The space between A and X squared, GeoGebra understands to mean multiply, plus B space X plus C, and I press enter, and there I have the function y is equal to x squared plus x plus 1, and its graph is shown there, and it's labeled D. D corresponds to the equation that we have just, or the function that we have just drawn, and the coefficients here correspond to the sliders. If I put in the axes, then we are seeing something else. Let's leave A at 1, and if we change B to 2, sorry, if I change B to 2, we have x squared plus 2x plus 1, and we see what our curve is doing there. And of course we right click, we go to object properties, we can change the color, the style, we can have the thickness up to 7 so that we have nice bright line there. We can right click on D, object properties, and I can have just the value being shown, and we have the equation of that quadratic function being shown there. So that is how we construct the sliders. So when we move A, we are seeing the changes that happen. Then when we select B, we are seeing those changes, and when we select C, we are seeing those changes. Okay, how do we add text to this? That is going to be in the next activity. Your activity, please practice constructing sliders for angles and changing the increment for angles from 1 degree to perhaps 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, and construct straight lines of the form y is equal to mx plus c, and have your increments as usual. You might want your increments to be at 0.1 or 1 or 2, and do the same for quadratic functions.